handing your end to me.
No, my end's over here.
All right, guys, welcome to this week's episode of Midwest Whitetail. We are back down here at Area 52, and we're right on the access lane of my property. And the goal for tonight is to get some native grass interseeded into a stand that's already native grasses. But over the last year, we've kind of had some tough conditions here in southeast Iowa. So last fall, we actually did it where we did some seeding at this exact location with the CP25, which is actually the same seed that we're using tonight. It's got big blue stem, little blue stem, cave and rock switch, Indian grass, but then you also get some of those flowers that are orchestrated in there as well, some forbs with your purple coneflower, gray coneflower, side oats are associated, black-eyed Susans, brown-eyed Susans, you know, lots of different variety in that. And you know, that also gives a little bit of color to your native stand, and that's something that my wife really enjoys, and I know that that'll help kind of have the curve appeal to this actual farm too. So there's lots of benefits to being able to do this down here. This is the access to my property where I do the majority of my access to all of my stand locations. As long as it's not on the far north side, you know, pretty much everything on the entire farm is accessed through this location. So creating diversity that is gonna enhance habitat, you know, for bedding at different times of the year, while also allowing me to have cover for getting in and out to specific stand locations. But one of the things that I'm excited about tonight is also the tractor I got behind me, because we also have a Great Plains drill, and I do have some experience doing some native seeding with just my professional and also personal stuff that I do in my life. But this is new to me, this specific drill. So we actually did a reduction kit on this specific drill tonight, because the idea is that we're shooting for 10 pounds to the acre for most natives. These are small, you know, fluffy seed is what this is. And actually most of the native grasses, they're gonna add rice hulls, or maybe, you know, I've heard of individuals adding kitty litter or even some pine wood shavings to their seed. So it actually makes it where you're not running through your seed rate so quickly. But that reduction kit has the idea of getting our seed rate even lower than that 10 pounds to the acre. We had some pretty rough drought conditions over the last year, and we're actually getting to the point here in southeast Iowa where unfortunately we're almost coming up to another drought conditions. But I also think it's important when we're talking about this too, to also talk about, you know, maybe a mistake that I made during this land management process is that, you know, we did seed this to natives, but I got so kind of tired of seeing a lot of dirt down here at Area 52 that there was a lot of change going on during the process where there was a lot of exposed ground. So I actually did a cover crop at the same time that I did that native seeding. So we elected to do winter wheat, which is great because it greened up. It was a food source for the deer during a different time of the year. But with any type of cover crop, you got to make sure that you're on it come springtime, whether it's mowing or spraying. And we had one storm down here that dropped 2.5 inches of rain. And just like that, I came down here 3 or 4 days later, and more than 25% of it had headed out. So essentially there's potential that could have reseeded itself, which I know that I'm gonna be nitpicky, you know, just a little bit because I want it to look really good for the natives, but they take time. But, you know, I'm looking forward to how this, you know, specific project really acts as the front gate to my property, but also allows me to access this in different ways. And then ultimately, you know, too, just creates diversity. You know, I keep talking about that, but diversity is king. If you look down at the aerials of some of the drone shots we found down here, there's a lot of big timber and a lot of big ag, but there's not a lot of really good stands of natives. And I'm really hoping that this kind of plays into the plan down here, so I'm excited to get rolling tonight. All right, guys, this is a project done. It always seems like during the off season, there's a long laundry list of projects that you're trying to get done, and the list is much smaller of the stuff that you actually do get accomplished. So it's nice to have this on that smaller list. And you know, one of the things I'm really looking forward to in the coming months is that there's obviously going to be projects I'm working on down here at Area 52. I'm excited to bring that to you, but then also we're going to transition into a new property that I've been calling the Goat Hills. I always have like creative names I'm coming up with, but that's a new property that I'm going to have access to this year. And when you see it, you're going to understand why it's called the Goat Hills. It's a lot of up and down, really different topography. But in the coming weeks, I'm actually going to get out there and get some cuttybacks. I only have one Trax camera running out there right now, so I'm looking forward to actually getting some of these new L Series out. I know that Dan with Cuddyback's been kind of getting us some equipment and kind of helping me out getting started. So really looking to get out there and kind of get that inventory and get this summer started.
There's literally a tick on the shifter, bro. That's how bad the ticks are out here. The old fence gap. Well, as you guys just saw, Zach's finishing up on his farm. He's making a lot of improvements the last 2 years, and I'm pretty eager to see him catch up with a buck that he's got a lot of history with on that farm this year. But as you guys saw last week, I left you guys on edge with kind of thinking that I saw GQ Jr. Well, proof's in the pudding. Last night, we saw him, and he is extra wide. He looks healthy, and Lee and I are already dreaming big on what's to come here in October, early season. So we're gonna deploy those cameras like I talked about last week, and we gotta start by getting a couple vine scrapes. You know, I've talked about how I like getting the natural movement on the farm, so we're gonna throw a couple vine scrapes up today. I got a couple new cameras that we're gonna try out from Cuddyback as well, these new L Series. I'm really eager to see how well they work, but we're gonna start off by grabbing a couple vines, and then we're gonna deploy the system. So follow along, let's go find some vines. Dude, it is actually so hard to find vines around here. Looking good, dude. Man, these beans look awesome, you guys. This is that plot that we came in here and drilled not too long ago. You guys watch us fence it too, and you can tell these deer haven't been in here browsing whatsoever, so this fence is doing the job. But I am eager to hunt this plot in late season with Lee. I cannot wait to film him here. I just think that there's gonna be deer all over, so back to trying to find this vine. All right, we're back at the fence gap. Josh and I are striking out on finding grapevines, boys. But this is the central part of the farm, so to say. The home camera has been at this location ever since 2020. And ever since 2020, we've been getting photos of GQ Jr. using this fence gap. So a lot of historical data here. The one thing that we are doing to make this a little bit better, since this camera is just over an opening, if you don't add anything to it, you're just gonna get photos of deer walking through it. So we're gonna add a vine scrape here. Hopefully we can attract them to this scrape, get a little bit closer photo. That way you know what they are. So get this camera up real quick. So I'm thinking of vine off this, and I'm gonna put this right here. Solar hooked up. These things are awesome. Do a little redecorating here. Cut this one too. Whenever I'm making my vine scrapes, I don't like any other overhanging branches in the way. I want one vine coming down, and that's what their focus is on. Nothing else. It just makes it pop a little better. So we got our limb picked out where we're gonna hang this vine. I use zip ties, 2 zip ties. If you're short like me, Get your rake for a little help. Tight as it'll go. Because these deer love playing with them, and they can fall out really easy if you don't tighten them all the way. They'll work this by rubbing their nose and their head all up and down this. It's pretty funny watching them do it. I love it. So, home camera's established and our scrape's up. I feel confident about this. You know, all these bucks during season really use this area quite a bit. So I think this is gonna be a good camera for us again. But like I said earlier, we are just using this vine scrape to make this spot even better. It's already good, but we wanna make it as good as possible. So one camera hung up for him, on to the next one. Let's go hang up another for GQ Junior. All right, this is what I would consider GQ Junior's favorite scrape. You know, it seems like he's always on this camera. I've been hanging a vine scrape off this the past 2 years, but last year this changed dramatically. This was a corn plot, and we decided to change it to alfalfa. So now it's pretty much a year-round food plot for them, and they're here constantly. And how these deer work out, they're gonna hug these edges. So any overhanging limb on an edge, especially in a summer food source, is a great spot to put a vine. So we're gonna put one up here, second camera, then on to the next one. You know, Josh and I were just talking about it. The bedding area where GQ and GQ Junior lived is right down here. When Lee was chasing GQ, there was multiple times where GQ would bring a doe right out of this little pocket and out into this food source. So it's a historical, really good spot. It's an edge. Just gonna make it a little better by putting a vine over it. That's another nice thing why we put this alfalfa in here. Alfalfa has a giant taproot. With that taproot, it's going deep into the ground and it can dig for that moisture. So that's one added benefit to having alfalfa on your farm. Perfect. I'm gonna smoke that. All right, let's grab a camera. Awesome. I'm excited to try these new cameras. So this is the new Cuddelink L Series camera, and it is their flagship camera for 2023 season. It's their new camera for this year. And essentially this camera is kind of going to replace the G Series camera and the J's. But I'm really eager to try one out. They just shipped them over to us not too long ago. I just put some fresh batteries, fresh SD card in here. I'm eager to see how the battery life is because I tried those tracks last year, brand new cameras last year, and the batteries lasted from the second week of October to when I grabbed them the other day, which was 2 weeks ago. So. Where you at? Let me see. We're at 99, dude. All right, this is camera number 3. This is where Lee called his shot for GQ Junior. A lot of history with GQ and GQ Junior hitting the scrape post right to my left. So we're just gonna set this camera over it. I'm not gonna get a limb on it just yet today because I gotta come in here and mow this clover off. There's a lot of clover popping up. A lot of this stuff just got seeded this spring because we had such a bad drought last year. The white clover really got smoked all across the farm. So honestly, I bet GQ Junior is within 100 yards in that ditch right there. That's where we found a shed. And last night, Shay and I filmed him up on this hill, just right in front of us. So he's probably very close. Perfect. I'm a human weed eater, boys. 1 minute. Good. Awesome. Let's get this feed on the ground. It's a wide range. All right, camera's hung. Got in the day on a cold bevy. So as I mentioned earlier, we're getting these Cuddylink out, and I was really excited to see these L Series cameras. They're the new flagship camera for Cuddyback this year. They're a Cuddelink camera, so they can daisy chain. You know, one improvement that we picked up on right away is one of the most important things with these Cuddylinks is the link level to each camera. And with summer vegetation being very high right now, normally our levels go down in the summer months just because of all the extra vegetation. Well, in areas that normally the link levels would be lower, these new cameras were at 99 today, which shocked the heck out of me. So I was really excited to see that. Those cameras are awesome. Now I just want to see the picture quality and the battery length. On this last camera that we put out here, we just threw some Axe 1 on the ground. It's a supplemental feed that a company that we just paired with, Terra Products, makes. They're an Iowa-based company, and this feed has a cherry aroma to it. You can smell it as soon as you take it out of the bag, and these deer shouldn't have a hard time finding it today. Actually, right where we're at, we filmed GQ Junior right over this ridge. And as I've said earlier, that deer is gonna be an absolute unit. If we could just get the moisture throughout the summer and avoid EHD, I think Lee's in the chips for a really fun October. So excited to see this story continue, and opening day just can't come soon enough.